right, class. So welcome now to the story of X Part 2. We're calling this Part 2 because we're continuing this series on how to solve for our X when we are given two terms. So yesterday, or I should say in the first part, you had 2x plus 4 equals 8, right? And we solved that. And we solved it, and we kind of went through the whole story of x and used inverse operations so that we could solve for this unknown variable x. Well, today we're going to do something somewhat similar, and I'm going to move this down here, except you'll notice a little something different in terms of the order. So in this part 2 series, I'm going to erase this a little bit, okay? In this part 2 series, we have an equation that looks like this. We have 30, and now we would expect 30 to be added or subtracted by something, but actually we're going to have 30, and we're going to put the equal sign, and then we're going to have negative 5x plus 10. Now, this looks very similar and yet different from this 2x plus 4 equals 8, right? I'm not going to write that down because you guys know what I'm talking about right now. And so you might think, okay, Ms. Chang, how am I going to solve this? Because I know what to do when the x is on the left side of the equal sign, but now the x is on the right side of the equal sign, and it's really tripping me up. Well, here's the beauty of math. As long as we can maintain the same order on one side of the equal sign and this on the other side of the equal sign, we can actually switch them around so that it reads like this. So remember, our original was 30 equals negative 5x plus 10. And what you can see that I've done here is I've just taken this entire expression and sort of rotated around so that now negative 5x plus 10 equals 30. Notice the values of these expressions and the quantity here hasn't changed at all. We've just switched the sides. Now we can do that when we're not like moving this to this side. We can just switch things around, okay? So what I've done here is like a pre-step, if you will. The pre-step is to switch the expressions and quantity. Switch the expression quantity on both sides, right? Both sides of the equal sign. So that's that sort of pre-step that I've done, right? And I've gotten this expression. Now we go back to that original step 1 question to try and solve for x, and we ask ourselves, is it in the most simplified form? And the answer is yes, right? Because we have unlike term, and we can't simplify that even more. We have one term, and when I say simplified form, I mean simplified form on either side of the equal sign. So do we have a simplified expression on this side? Check. Do we have a simplified form on this side? Check. Well, you can't get more simple than that one quantity of 30, right? So now we are ready to build that story of x in order to undo what's happening to x, and then to isolate that x, to have that x on one side and a value or quantity on the other, okay? So let's go ahead and write that down. So again, I'm going to separate our steps from our solutions. So our simplified form is negative 5x plus 10 equals 30. I'm going to keep that up there so we can kind of keep a visual. I'm not going to go into as many visuals I did with part 1, just to save us some time and space. But hopefully you'll remember from part 1. If not, you can always go back to the part 1 video and see all those like tiny little steps that I took to justify what we were doing up here. Anyway, let's go back to this. So we said, yes, this is a simplified form. And then step 2, of course, is to create our story of x. And again, this x could be any variable, but in this case, we have the x, so that's what we're going to call it. So we're going to build the story, okay? And remember, we're going to build up. So we're going to build up, and then we have x here. And what's happening to x is that it's being multiplied by a -5, right? So multiply by -5. Then we're adding 10 to this term here, so we're going to do that. Okay, so then the way that we undo this, right, or apply inverse operations is, remember, and when we undo it, we start from the top. We subtract 10, remember, because we're adding 10, and the opposite or the inverse operation, right, is to subtract 10. And again, inverse operation here, the opposite of multiplication is division, right, by -5. And then we'll be able to solve for our x, okay? So now let's go to this side and let's follow step 1 and step 2. Remember, because of this equal sign that says this expression and this quantity are the same, what we have to do is whatever we do to this side, we have to do to this side. So if we're going to undo this side, remember, and we're starting off here because x is on this side of the equal sign, if that wasn't clear before. So we're subtracting 10, and we have to do that from both sides, right? Right? And so 10 minus 10 is 0. It's nothing, which is what we want, because remember, we're trying to break it down and uncover things and take things away from where x is so that we can be left with x all by itself. So we're going to, but again, because we subtracted from here, we got to subtract from here. And then we get 30 minus 10, which is 20. And we got to bring this -5x down because we didn't do anything to it yet. Now we go to this story of undoing of x, and we realize that our second step is to divide by 5. And once again, we want to represent that with that fraction bar. So -5 divided by -5. We cancel that out because -5 divided by -5 is going to give us 1. It's going to leave us with that 1x that we want. Whoops. And then, because we divided that side by -5, this equal sign says, whatever you do to this, you got to do to this. Then you get x equals -4. So let's go ahead and check our work. And let's substitute our -4 into our original equation up here and see if it works. So I've got -5 times -4 plus 10 equals 30. Well, let's see. So -5 times -4 is going to give us a positive 20, right? And then plus 10 equals 30. 30 equals 30. Hey, we're done. That is a true statement. 30 does certainly equal 30.